This is Jeff Rains coming again with Foundation of Civilization in Our Changing World. It's a time of week again where I do a quick rundown of the important news stories from around the world, or at least the stories that I think are fairly important. I issued a warning started a couple of weeks ago to let you guys know that I am not doing this just for fun and giggles. And I'll reiterate that I know a lot of people are not. A lot of people will listen to this and they're not going to be concerned, not really going to change their habits or anything. This message is for those people who want clear, sober analysis of world events so that you can make adjustments and be better informed about what's going on in the world and look out for the things that you really need to look out for. So if what I present just doesn't suit your liking, well, keep clicking, keep going to something else. I'm glad to have you here. I'm happy to have you here. I'm not here to cater to you. I'm here to present things the best I can to show you what I see is important. So, and I do that from analysis that I've done throughout my life. And in fact, I've written a book about civilization, what brings it together and what makes it fall apart. It's called Foundation of Civilization, hence the name. And well, let me continue on. And before I get into the news, I want to let you know that I have something for you that I hope will help me afford to pay for this the little adventure that I go through every week. Years ago, I wrote a book called A Twisted Trade, and I've now gotten it turned into an audio book. I want to thank my narrator, Jerome Ferguson. He's done a great job, and I'll give you a description of the book towards the end of this video so you can learn a little bit more about it and find out if it's something that you are interested in. Our world runs on oil, and so that is where I will start. West Texas Intermediate Crude ended the week at $61.50. Brent crude ended the week at $65.94, and the OPEC basket ended the week at $67.25. Now, a couple weeks ago, I noted that we had a huge uptick in gold and silver. The gold and silver prices, they made a massive increase over a couple of weeks. They've done some pullback here over the past this week, a little bit last week, and a little more this week. But that is an indicator that huge rise and now the pullback that's probably the first massive move. They've been slowly creeping up over the past few years, but now the institutional traders are looking and saying, hey, there's something here and we need to be prepared for it. Things are changing. The fiat currency does not hold the value that it used to, and so the people are getting ready. The insiders are getting ready by buying up gold and silver, and they're not able to hold it back. They've been playing tricks with these things in the past, but now I don't think they're able to hold it back anymore. So gold into the week at $4,113.48. Silver into the week at $43.60. And a measure of how well people think transporting goods and exchanging business is going to go is found in the Baltic Exchange Dry Goods Index. And this week it was down a little bit at $1,991. That's still kind of in the range that it's been over the past few months, though. I noted, it was last week I noted, and I'm just going to reiterate, the London Bullion Market Association has been trading metals, especially silver, under normal conditions. They trade paper without any worries, but now the traders have said, hey, there's not enough actual material to cover all of the paper trades that we have issued out here. So now they're buying it up, and it's becoming a problem. The bonds, which are a measure of how well people think a government is going to be able to repay its loans, those ended the week for the United States. The 10-year bond was at 4.023%. The UK bond was at 4.4346%. percent, and the Japanese bond ended the week at 1.6590%. This week, the UN had a proposal of a carbon tax to to implement across the world. They noted, and I believe this is from a couple weeks ago. This week it was the rejection, but the State Department, U.S. State Department, noted next week, which would have been this week, members of the International Maritime Organization, the IMO, will vote on the adoption of so-called Net Zero Framework (NZF), aimed at reducing global carbon dioxide gas emissions from the international shipping sector. This will be the first time that a UN organization levies a global carbon tax on the world. The administration unequivocally rejects this proposal before the IMO and will not tolerate any action that increases cost for our citizens, energy providers, shipping companies, and their customers or tourists. The economic impacts from this measure could be disastrous, with some estimates forecasting global shipping costs increasing as much as 10% or more. We ask you to join us in rejecting adoption of the NZF at the October meeting and to work together on our collective economic and energy security. And I brought this up before I worried about our maritime, our military situation, because this is something that crosses borders, and the UN being an international organization. And, well, the United States flat out rejected the global carbon tax. As far as military and naval deployments go, the ISR aircraft continue their flights across around the United States, spying in the south, out west, northern border, southern border, especially southern border, and quite a bit of activity in the Caribbean, especially around Florida, or out of Florida, I should say, and out of Puerto Rico. This is in preparation for activities probably related to Venezuela. The Navy, 287 ships, the 99 are deployed, 69 are underway. The George Washington returned to Yokosuka, Japan. The Gerald R. Ford is operating in the Mediterranean Sea. The USS Nimitz was spotted transiting the Singapore Strait. The Theodore Roosevelt departed San Diego on Thursday, which would have been the 16th of October. USS Tripoli is in Sasebo, Japan. USS Boxer returned to San Diego. Fort Lauderdale and San Antonio are with the Iwo Jima operating in the Caribbean Sea, and this, again, is probably in preparation for an attack on Venezuela. What type of attack, we don't know that. We don't know what that's going to take, whether it will be strikes into Venezuela or Colombia, or if they plan on seizing territory or not. Cartel strikes continue. Operations. The United States this week struck a second boat in the Pacific, which I believe takes us up to 8 boats total. The Venezuelan president orders an app to report everything that happens. Tell everything you see and hear. And this is according to the U.S. Herald. And in response to all of this activity, the United States raised its security alert for Trinidad and Tobago because of the potential rising threat or the potential threat with Venezuela. Katie Martin from the Financial Times writes in the Financial Times that the discussions about bubbles, financial bubbles, are getting much more serious. She said a couple of months ago, warning about a bubble in the world's most important stock market was largely the preserve of oddballs and attention seekers. But with so many aspects of life in 2025, it turns out you can get used to pretty much anything, and all of a sudden the warnings are coming from all sides. The latest missive from the IMF, International Monetary Fund, last week was bracing. And I quote from that statement: "Valuation models show risk asset prices well above fundamentals, raising the risk of sharp corrections." Went on to say, "Markets appear complacent as the ground shifts." Katie noted, "Investors and policymakers should be alert for the prospects of disorderly corrections and the potential for self-reinforcing doom loops where a loss of confidence in the sustainability of government debt whacks the bond market, which in turn whacks risky asset priced for risky assets priced for nirvana, which in turn hammers the banking sector, both traditional lenders and shadow bankers that are locked in an embrace of increasing interconnectedness." The Bank of England struck a similar tone, noting the risk of a sharp market correction. Pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. The markets, they've had a great time lately, and they've been rising quite a bit. But at some point, the party's going to be over. This week, the party is still going on at the moment. And this week in Europe, the DAX ended the week at 24,239.89. The FTSE ended the week at 9,638.58. The CAC 40 ended the week at 8,218.32. And the IBEX 35 ended the week at 15,861.50. Ukraine and Russia continue to be fighting, unfortunately, for some reason. They're trading barbs, and lots of people are making all kinds of plans in the process. The U.S. president had planned on meeting with the Russian president, but that meeting has since been, and they were going to meet in Hungary, but that meeting has since been canceled. I know there were a number of things, I think a number of disputes that they just probably felt they weren't going to be able to resolve this time around. There was also another problem, challenge, in that some of the countries close to Hungary had threatened to force the Russian president's aircraft to land, and at which point he would be taken into custody because there's an arrest warrant out for him by the International Court. The United States on Wednesday hit Russia's two biggest oil producers, Rosneft and Lukoil, with sanctions. And this is the first against Russia since the U.S. president had returned to office. The Russian president said that, and I quote, the U.S. sanctions targeting two major oil firms were serious, but not strong enough to significantly affect the economy. That was end quote. Now, he further stated, they, talking about the sanctions, are serious enough for us. Of course, that is clear, and they have certain consequences, but they will not significantly impact our economic well-being. End quote. And this he stated in an interview with reporters. Furthermore, EU ministers this past week, much earlier this week, have agreed to introduce a complete ban on Russian gas imports starting from January 2028. And this is despite opposition from Hungary and Slovakia, who have a pipeline running into their countries. At a meeting in Luxembourg, European Council ministers voted overwhelmingly to favor a draft legislation that constitutes a central element of EU's what they call Rep Power EU roadmap to independency on Russian energy. Now the question becomes, where are they going to find their energy if they're not going to get it from Russia? But they're moving forward with a plan to end their dependency that will end. The council confirmed that imports of Russian gas will be prohibited from January 1st, 2026, while maintaining a transition period for existing contracts. Short-term contracts concluded before June 17th, 2025, or 2025, may continue until June 17th, 2026, whereas long-term contracts must expire January 1st, 2028. And that is actually an interesting move for me because that that, that suggests that Europe is actually getting serious about ending their about a conflict with Russia and not paying Russia to attack them. United Kingdom is also pressing for a coalition of the willing for more long-range missiles for Ukraine. There was an alleged terrorist attack, and it was a shooting at a pro-government protest outside the Serbian parliament, and one person was injured. Hungary is to start talks of buying nuclear fuel from the United States. That's according to Reuters. And NATO member Lithuania says 2 Russian jets briefly entered its airspace. Now, this continues to be a dispute. Russia claims that it's not the airspace. Lithuania says that it is. And Russia tries to assert itself periodically to let the Lithuanians know, hey, we're still here and we're gonna do whatever we want to. At some point, though, there could be a sticking point. Now, for citizens in the United Kingdom, I'm not sure how we've let things get to this point. Well, actually, I do know. Things have been getting pushed on us, unfortunately. Recently, Britain presented a new digital ID for all UK citizens. While it's being touted as a new way to open access to government programs, it presents unprecedented ability to control citizens' activities and movement. Now we find out that Britain plans to fine anyone £85 for anybody who's trying to conduct business without this digital ID. There is a manhunt underway in Essex when a British court allegedly mistakenly released an illegal immigrant instead of deporting them. Hadush Gerber Slasi Kebatu. He was in court. He was slated to be deported. He was actually the cause of riots that occurred in a couple of years ago, or about a year ago, I believe it was, in Essex. And for some reason, the court set him free instead of deporting him. In Sweden, a judge ruled that an Eritrean migrant who assaulted a 16-year-old, Maya Aberg, he won't be deported after serving a 3-year sentence because the assault did not last long. It was a sex assault. The judge has spoken out and said that they cannot take into consider people's opinion, and even if they're angry and offended. I don't know. This is another one of those that really makes me scratch my head. But considering the way that the Brits are taking care of people and the Swedes, the French, the Germans, they all favor immigrants, legal or illegal immigrants. We expect that there will be more vigilante justice in Ireland, England, Germany, France, all across the continent. Last Sunday, thieves, and I thought that we had kind of passed this time that anybody would be so brazen, but apparently somebody took the opportunity. Thieves broke in and stole the priceless jewelries from the Louvre in Paris. Shortly after it opened last Sunday, a number of people went to an outside window with angle grinders. I believe it was 4 people. It was 4 perpetrators appeared to be involved in the theft. They climbed a ladder to a second floor, used the angle grinders to open the window, and then they entered, threatened guards, I presume unarmed guards, with the angle grinders, and they cut open the the cabinets that were holding the jewels on display. They made off with the jewels and haven't been seen since. I know that I heard a joke this past week that they were found undisturbed in the British Museum, because it seems like the British Museum ends up with everything. Now, beyond their market value, the items have inestimable heritage and historic value. Hopefully they will be returned, and they'll make their way back to the Louvre somehow, some way, safely. In Asia, the Nikkei index ended the week at 49,271.18. The SSE index ended the week at 3,949.33. The Hang Seng ended the week at 26,166.03. The BSE Sensex ended the week at 84,050.11.11. And the Nifty 50 ended the week at 25,797.50. This past week, Japan has selected a new Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi. She is noted as being a rather conservative, which is kind of funny because it's certainly not a conservative for U.S. standards, a conservative for Japanese standards. She was part of the cabinet of Shinzo Abe up until he passed away. And now she gets to run Japan, and we'll see how well they do, because they've had to struggle recently. She faces a series of back-to-back foreign policy tests by meeting with the U.S. president in Tokyo, sandwiched between Asian region summits in Malaysia and South Korea. Pakistan, staying in Asia, this time in South Asia, Pakistan and Poland have vowed to deepen cooperation across various sectors. I didn't delve into what sectors. I'll have to look at it later. It'll be interesting to see what ones they're talking about. China has issued its 5-year plenum. They do this, well, every 5 years. They have a 5,000-word communique that they released on Thursday, and it outlines some of the things that they plan to do, which includes they're vowing to reduce its reliance on foreign advanced technology and spur stronger domestic demand as it tries to weather the what they call high winds amid elevated trade tensions with the United States. Now, interesting, China has I won't say has a problem. It has it's a characteristic that the Chinese save a great deal of money, and they don't tend to spend money. This is it's a benefit, and it's a challenge, because they don't have a lot of domestic consumption. Domestic consumption is something that you find in the West, and especially in the United States, because, well, we're fat, dumb, and happy, and we spend all our money paycheck to paycheck. So China's trying to figure out how to get through the next few years by reducing its dependency on technology and expanding its domestic consumption. This past week, North Korea test-fired 2 hypersonic missiles this past Wednesday, which prompted protests from the United States Indo-Pacific Command. And they described the test as unlawful and destabilizing. In the Middle East, at least 6 Palestinians have been shot and wounded by Israeli forces in various parts of the Gaza Strip. And at least 93 people in Gaza have been killed by Israeli attacks since the beginning of the October 10th ceasefire. This past week in Syria, a number of clashes broke out between the new government forces And, there's a French militant. And I'll quote from the article by ABC. Clashes broke out this week between Syrian government forces and fighters in a camp in northern Syria's Idlib province, led by an internationally wanted French militant. Clashes come at a delicate moment as Syria's interim authority are looking to decide how to handle the presence of thousands of Islamist foreign fighters in the country. Foreign fighters joined forces with the Syrian insurgents who unseated former President Bashar al-Assad in a lightning offensive last year after nearly 14 years of civil war. But now, as the country's new leaders are trying to cement new ties with the West, these foreign fighters have become a political liability. What happened this past week is this French militant, French citizen named Omar Diaby, kidnapped a girl from her mother recently, this past week. And then Syrian forces went in and tried to retrieve the girl, and a fight broke out. There's no word about the number of casualties or if anybody was killed. Also this past week, the Israeli parliament passed a measure that they would settle the West Bank. This is the West Bank along the Jordan River. It is an area that's called part of the occupied territories, which a lot of people call the occupied territories. It's disputed, and a lot of Palestinians live there. Well, this past week, the U.S. president has said that, and I'll quote, Israel is not going to do anything with the West Bank, unquote. The U.S. president said, don't worry about the West Bank. And Israel is doing well. They're not going to do anything with it. Talking about the West Bank. So the Israeli Knesset thinks that they're going to expand settlements into the West Bank, and the U.S. president is saying no. We'll find out how much he says no after AIPAC makes their donations to the Senate and the House. Something disturbing that has been happening lately in Nigeria. Kidnapping has been very common, and it has become a very lucrative business. Something that the international community is going to have to look at and challenge. This past week, 83 people were arrested in what Interpol was calling Operation Catalyst, which ran from July through September of this year. And it was aimed at identifying and disrupting financial flows and schemes found to have connections to terrorism, financing, and its support networks. Of the 83 arrests, 21 were for terrorism-related crimes, 28 for financial fraud and money laundering, 16 were linked to cyber-enabled scams, and a further 18 were related to illicit use of virtual funds. In the United States, that's not what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. In the United States, the Dow Jones Industrial Average ended the week at 47,268.64. The S&P 500 ended the week at 6,791.67. The NASDAQ ended the week at 23,201.82. There was a dispute between Canada and the United States after somebody in the Canadian government, I think it was in particular in Ontario, but they ran an ad that had were bits and pieces of comments made by former U.S. President Ronald Reagan, and it was presented as he was opposed to tariffs. President Reagan was opposed to tariffs. In actuality, he wasn't. That's not what he was presenting. The U.S. president took exception to it and decided to call off discussions with them. It will be interesting to see what it's going to take to get the United States back to the table to continue talks. And don't be fooled. Canada has also responded, and they've seen this coming, that they need to expand their trade with other countries around the world. And that's true. They've needed to do that for quite a while. But no matter how you look at it, how it works out, the United States and Canada have a huge border, and it is a natural conduit to each other's economies. So I hope both of us figure out how to talk a little bit better and nicer to each other, and we can continue the good relationships that we've had for some time. Earlier this week, 48 bags of human remains were discovered in a clandestine grave in Guadalajara, Mexico. Very disturbing. Guadalajara is the capital of Jalisco, and the Mexican state, and it's where one of Mexico's most violent and powerful drug cartels operates, and thousands of people have been reported missing in the area. Well, we got 48 bags of human remains that may indicate what happened to some of these people. Recently, the United States had taken possession or taken responsibility for a Mexican cartel boss that went by El Gato. A further review of a past murder for hire incident has brought new charges. This is on Villarreal Hernandez. He was connected to a 2013 murder of a man shot and killed in South Lake Shopping Center. And let's see, Villarreal, he was part of the Beltran Leyva organization cartel, which ordered a hit on Juan Jesus Guerrera Chapa in South Lake. Guerrera Chapa was allegedly a lawyer for a rival cartel. And he was gunned down in the shopping center while he sat in his vehicle. This past week, Amazon Web Services, which is a leader in cloud infrastructure, reported a major outage on Monday and took down numerous websites. Now, many of the websites came online a few hours later, but this is another indicator of potential cyber attacks or potential sabotage of some sort. Foreign actors, Russian, Chinese, North Korean, Iranian, Palestinian, well, not likely Palestinian because they don't have much of anything to be able to conduct any kind of operations with, but any number of them could have hacked the system, or it could have been some random tech guy who typed in the wrong code at the wrong time. Anyway, services are back up, whether it was accidental or intentional. Luckily, we've got services back. This past week, a number of police departments were conducting raids nationwide on what's called a crackdown called Operation Coast to Coast. Involved more than 150 law enforcement agencies, including teams in Texas, North Carolina, Missouri, and New York. They focused on the illicit massage industry, which this also serves as human trafficking hub and moneymaker for Chinese organized crime networks. More than 30 people were arrested or detained for trafficking and related charges, and more than 60 victims were rescued and offered services. Los Angeles, a teacher speaking out against the administration and ICE agents, has noted that ICE are not the only ones with guns. Now, this is following the shooting of a federal agent. Also, in protest of ICE operations, there was a ramming attack at a Coast Guard base in Alameda, California. Immediately afterwards, small arms fire. Well, I won't say afterwards, it was during the ramming attack. Small arms were exchanged, and the driver of the vehicle got away but was later found because they showed up to a hospital to have a gunshot wound to their abdomen attended to. Now, this is a facility. Previously, Antifa supporters had earlier been protesting the site because ICE agents are using the Coast Guard facility as a base of operations to conduct their immigration raids in the area. This past week, a Georgia man was arrested. Georgia, the state of Georgia, next to me. He was arrested before he could launch a small arms attack at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, which is one of the busiest airports in the world. Apparently, his family is noting that he was having a mental episode. We had another incident of potential domestic terrorist. Mercurio in Idaho, a potential attacker. Alexander Scott Mercurio had pledged allegiance to ISIS and intended to carry out an attack in the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area on its behalf. This was in early 2023. He created an online repository of pro-ISIS content and spread Islamic State doctrine. He had targeted churches in the Coeur d'Alene area and planned his attack on April 7th. The FBI arrested him luckily on April 6th, so thank goodness the FBI actually did their job before something terrible happened. A Democrat nominee for the state Senate has apologized for having a tattoo of it's a Nazi tattoo. It's the Totenkopf, the death's head, that a number of Germans used, the symbol that the Germans used. It's a skull and crossbones symbol used by Nazis during World War II. This week, Glock plans to discontinue a number of, more than 30 handgun models, including the G17, the G19, the 20, 21, and like I said, many more. Also this week, there was another deadly crash. 3 people were killed when an illegal immigrant who was under the influence of something, he was from India, he failed to stop, smashed through several vehicles, and that started a fire. This was on I-10, also, like I said, in California. Also this week, the U.S. President pardoned, this was on Wednesday this week, pardoned a convicted crypto executive, Changpeng Zhao. He founded Binance Crypto Exchange. And the reason for the pardon, according to the administration, is that Mr. Zhao... Well, let me back up. The reason Mr. Zhao was convicted in the first place was that he pled guilty to allowing illegal activity to go on his exchange. People were using his exchange for illegal activity. He himself was not accused of doing anything. He accepted the plea deal, which was probably lighter than he was looking at. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison, and after he reached a deal with the Justice Department, he pled guilty to enabling money laundering at Binance. But now, the current, and that was under the last administration, well, the current administration has decided to pardon him. And the last thing that I wanted to cover, Sports has had a difficult time for quite a while, and this week the NBA was at the focus of the effort. Several players and the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, Chauncey Billups, were arrested for their participation in two major illegal gambling schemes. One of them was placing bets on NBA games. The other was involving underground poker games. The FBI took several people into custody. It'll be interesting to see what ends up coming out of this whole thing, but who knows? That concludes everything that I have for you for this week. Every week, every day, there's always something new. Now I'd like to go into my audiobook, and I'll do a brief description of it, and you can decide if it's something that you want to look at. I will have links in the description, so you can go to the links. You can go to and trace it, buy it if you like. Both the hard copy and the audio version of it. So, a twisted trade. The small kingdom of Comenda has ventured into the slave trade. The king looks to his most trusted advisor, Chimzé, to manage the rival tribesmen captured from the local countryside. As an entrepreneurial king, the king sees the wealth of his European contacts and realizes the potential of the trade. He seeks to increase his wealth and expand his kingdom. Charging Chimzé with a mission, he dutifully follows the slave trade to the New World. What he finds makes him doubt his mission. The deeper he goes, the clearer the picture becomes. Cloaked in secrets, the reality of slavery is a legacy of violence, terror, and families torn apart. Can Chimzé resist the lure of money and power to stand up for the people? Can he convince others to give up the trade? What would you risk to be on the right side of history? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me this week. And I look forward to speaking to you all again. Again, this is Jeff Rains, Foundation of Civilization. Please pay attention to what's going on. Keep your head on a swivel, and hug your family, spend time with them, and show them much love. And I look forward to talking to you guys again very soon. Thanks. Bye.